I would necessarily have. It is a moment where you need to have that discussion. The monarchy provides, with the Constitution,
It was supposed to be a routine family meeting. No press, no fanfare. Just the key royals gathered at Windsor Castle, behind closed doors, as they've done so many times before. But this time was different. The air was heavier, the glances more cautious, and when Princess Anne stood up with a folded parchment in her hand, a private message written by King Charles himself, everyone knew the moment they were about to witness would change the monarchy forever. As she read her brother's final wish aloud, the silence in the room was broken only by the occasional breath of disbelief. Prince William and Prince Harry sat frozen. Not just because of what the letter said, but because of what it meant for the monarchy, their family, and the future of Britain. The King's final wish. King Charles had always walked a delicate line between tradition and transformation. He had waited decades to ascend the throne, studying the mistakes of past monarchs and the shifting tides of public opinion. But time, as it does, caught up with him. And as health concerns quietly shadowed his reign, he knew the moment to act had come. In his letter, he didn't speak just as a king, but as a man, a father, and a steward of an institution that had reached a tipping point. His final wish was clear: a leaner, more accountable and globally relevant monarchy. One not bound by nostalgia, but by necessity. He did not simply ask for William to prepare for leadership. He called upon the entire family to confront the future with courage. It wasn't just a passing of the crown. It was a call to reimagine what the monarchy could be in the 21st century, adapting to a digital, divided world. In generations past, royal reputation was preserved by tradition, managed through careful press releases and formal speeches. But today, a single viral video or controversial tweet can redefine the monarchy overnight. King Charles understood this shift more than anyone might have expected. His final wish was crafted not in isolation, but in response to the demands of a digital, impatient and highly critical world. Gone are the days when palace walls could shield the royal family from scrutiny. Now, every gesture, every silence, every scandal is amplified in real time. Charles's decision was strategic. He wanted to future-proof the monarchy. That meant trimming ceremonial roles, re-evaluating colonial artefacts in royal collections, and emphasizing transparency over tradition. The message was unmistakable. The crown must evolve, or risk becoming irrelevant. William's moment of truth. For Prince William, the letter was both a validation and a burden. He had spent his life preparing for this role under the harsh spotlight of public expectation. He had witnessed the triumphs and traumas of royal life, the applause, the criticism, and the slow unravelling of his own family's unity. His strained relationship with Harry had long served as a symbol of deeper dysfunction within the royal machine, and yet in recent years, William had begun to find his own voice. His speeches became sharper, his focus more distinct. Whether advocating for mental health, climate policy, or veteran care, he was no longer just a future king in waiting, he was already leading in spirit. Now, faced with his father's wish, William stood at a crossroads. Could he accept the crown not just as a symbol, but as a modern leader charged with guiding a century-old institution into the digital age? Harry's return, and his realization. Prince Harry's presence at Windsor that day was symbolic in itself. After stepping back from royal duties and moving to the US with Meghan Markle, his relationship with the family had been deeply fractured. His criticisms of the firm, aired in interviews and documentaries, had shaken the palace to its core. And yet, here he was, summoned not out of duty, but out of necessity. When Anne read the letter, Harry was visibly moved, not just by the contents, but by the fact that his father had included him at all. But the reality was stark. Harry was no longer central to the royal operation. Meghan's absence from the meeting only emphasised this fact. While the monarchy was finally beginning to confront the issues he had raised, rigidity, isolation, and lack of empathy, Harry was no longer part of the system pushing for change. His role in the future was ambiguous, possibly even symbolic. Still, his impact remained. The very reforms Charles called for were the same conversations Harry had once demanded. His distance from the palace didn't erase his influence. If anything, it had amplified it. The steady hand of Princess Anne. As always, Princess Anne played her role without fanfare. She was the messenger, not the architect, of this dramatic royal pivot. Her lifetime of quiet, unrelenting service had earned her the king's absolute trust. It was no accident that Charles chose her to deliver his most personal and consequential words. Anne didn't need the spotlight, but on that day, her presence reminded the family and the nation that true power in the monarchy often lies not in titles, but in integrity. She knew what this moment required: discipline, patience, and the ability to let go of the past for the sake of what's next. Camilla's concerns and the weight of change. Queen Camilla, seated beside Anne during the announcement, kept her reaction measured. Once the subject of relentless public criticism, she had quietly earned her place in the royal hierarchy. But the future Charles envisioned, a slimmed-down, more flexible monarchy, was one she approached with caution. Camilla had lived through scandal and survived. Her concerns weren't rooted in ego, but in loyalty to a system that had protected the monarchy through storm after storm. Change, she believed, must be tempered with wisdom. And yet even she acknowledged the pace of history was accelerating, and resisting it was no longer viable. The public response, mixed, but monumental. News of the king's final wish leaked within hours. Social media erupted. Opinion columns buzzed with speculation. For a monarchy that had always relied on mystique, this sudden transparency was jarring, but necessary. Some praised Charles for his foresight, for using his limited time to lay the groundwork for a more relevant monarchy. Others questioned William's readiness and the royal family's ability to truly reform. But no one could deny it. The institution was changing, and fast. The days of unquestioned reverence were gone. The public now demanded a monarchy that was human, accountable, and capable of evolving. Charles's final wish had acknowledged that reality, and passed the responsibility on to his son. Not just a coronation, a transformation. The coming years won't just be about William taking the crown, they'll be about redefining what that crown represents. Will the monarchy finally confront its colonial past in a meaningful way? Will it engage more deeply with communities that have long felt excluded from royal narratives? Will it embrace openness over secrecy? Charles didn't just want to see his son crowned king. He wanted to ensure the monarchy didn't crumble under the weight of its own history. He envisioned a future where tradition coexists with progress, a monarchy leaner, sharper, and more deeply in tune with Britain's evolving identity. The end of what we knew. What happened inside Windsor Castle that day was more than a family discussion. It was a royal reckoning. For centuries, the monarchy stood as a symbol of continuity. But in the span of one letter, everything changed. The crown is no longer just a relic of the past. It's being rebuilt, reimagined, and possibly reborn. Princess Anne may have delivered the message, but the responsibility now lies with William, Harry, and an entire generation of royals who must decide whether to cling to tradition or rise to meet a very different future. Because from that moment at Windsor, nothing would ever be the same again.